Well, it looks really flickery on the camera. There's no flicker on the actual screen here, but now you won't actually be able to tell how incredibly fast this is working. But I sat down and I thought, if I use paddle controllers for Dirt Racer, that's jittering because I need to clean up the contacts with a bit of WD-40, which, oh, there it is. So I do have some WD-40, but I don't have the little straw. Oh, actually I do have the little straw. It came off. So yeah, I mean basically this entire routine, although you can't actually accelerate because I can't fit everything into one line, but just moving the car like this and scrolling the screen, which you won't be able to tell because it's printing the same thing over and over, is all crunched onto one line and it runs incredibly fast. And I'll show you basically what that is. It's all happening in well, it's not going to work, is it? Line 75. Right, SV is SID volume, so that's 54296, so you've got that twice, one at 0, one at 15, that's what makes the, well, we just called it the engine sound. Now, poke KB, comma K1, KB is 56322, V1 is 224, so if you poke that with that value, it turns off the keyboard scanning, which you need to do before you read PX, which is 54297, which is the X coordinate. Basically it's one of the paddles, because you get two paddles plugged into each joystick port. Now I had a bit of this, these are going in control port 1. For some reason I found it difficult to find a listing that would read the paddles on control port 2. Not that it made any sense, there was no simple example. So I went with port 1, so, and V is the, I can't remember what the, it might be 54 or 53248, something like that. Anyway, basically it's the X position of that sprite 0. And PX, like I said, is 54297, so if you pick that value, you'll get a value of 0 to 255, depending on how far clockwise or anti-clockwise between the two, you know, stop points the variable resistor in the paddle controller is turned. And then poke KB, so we said what KB is. It's a keyboard scanning location, 56322. KS is just a different value, 255, so that turns it back on. Now technically I might not need to have that in the loop, because I'm not actually scanning for anything on the keyboard when you play the game. So, and there's no way of doing collision detection of any kind in this routine, but SYS 5977 is the thing that scrolls the screen, pushes it down one character, and ZT string is basically this. Is the home position, 2 cursor down positions, and then print that in those colours. So basically all it's, and you can tell by the how fast the code is running by listening to how high pitched the engine noise runs, which is this business here. Now you could probably speed it up a bit more, but there's no point, because you have to do collision detection, you have to check for the fire button, things like that. I couldn't remember offhand the value for the fire button on joystick port 1, but that's all you'd have to do. So I've got rid of like, if blah equals blah, then move the sprite left. If blah equals blah plus fire button pressed, then still move the sprite left, but also move the sprite up. So we've got rid of all of that, and basically we're down to one poke and a peek. That's not ideal. It would be a bit faster if you could store that as value, but at the same time you're going to lose time calling something, XX equals peak PX and then poke V, XX is no win situation there, so you might as well just leave it like that. So like I say, we just need to check if the fire button's pressed on this paddle controller that I'm using to read, the left and right, and then it should run much faster. I don't know why I didn't think of this, and it's a bit dumb not to do this, because Le Mans, one of my favourite games, is actually played with a paddle controller, and seeing as we're only using the fire button to accelerate and go up the screen, and when you take your finger off the fire button, so I'll have to check if this button is pressed. That's it, nothing else. So it'd be like one if then blah 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 go to whatever, and the rest of it is just checking for collision, moving the enemy sprites. Now I did have another idea to have like a 2-player version of this game, and instead of computer controlled cars, basically your mate will control the other car, and they won't be able to accelerate or decelerate in Dirt Racer. They'll just basically be able to try and crash into you as the cars come down the screen. So again, you got something interesting. And you could also have a proper 2-player game where both players are basically, it's sort of like micro machines. You just have to avoid each other. So it's just an extra poke, really, to move the other car, and an extra, reading of an extra button. So it should still be faster than this routine is at the moment, and this routine does need a bit of work. It just needs a little bit of help to go faster. So you could have that. So and in that case you'll have damage control. So if they collide, you start off with D1, damage for car 1 equals 255, and then each time it hits anything, when you check like, say, if you've gone over like this stuff. Now the only problem is, when you turn it anti-clockwise, the cars go clockwise. They go, I mean, if you hold it from the bottom, it makes sense. But most people twiddle the paddle controllers, not like that. So, yeah, maybe have a bit of Petsky graphics. But like I was saying, you'll go there, so you lose some damage there. But also if you hit each other, and I just need to do some sort of dynamic where if 2 cars touch, the one that's most to the left will move left, 10, 15 pixels, and the one that's most to the right, when the collision happens, moves the other way. So that way you can kind of bump each other off the road. So I don't really want to do like PX, peak PX minus 255 minus peak PX. We could actually try it, because There's not too much crunched on the thing, but the problem is I don't know how much. We need 75. Here we go. See, it goes off like one character, which I can't really change. But I can shorten all of these to fit in 255 minus. Yeah, it won't do it anymore. So your only choice here is shorten all of these, which is always a bit risky because it makes your code a bit unreadable now, and might actually have just enough space to do this. 255 minus, I don't know how much this will slow it down, but it comes really unreadable when you start doing stuff like this. So right, let's just run that. Where's the paddle that I was using? Is it this one? Yeah. Actually, it's kind of like the same speed, so yeah. And we'll modify it so, you know, there's much more dirt, well, much more dirt here, less dirt here, so it kind of evens out, because I don't really want to mess about with getting it to position 256 onwards here. That's another poke and another if then statement and all that crap, so that's not really a thing. So the jitteriness will not be a thing. The paddle controllers just haven't been used. They're in mint condition and they haven't been used for a long time. So yeah, that's my idea. So that's a bit of an update on Dirt Racer. We're abandoning joystick control. Just have to put a bit of time aside and do a few other things to the code, and then we can start actually putting in all the checks for if you've crashed. So I'll do the one player version first, where cars randomly zoom down any position between there and there, and they're just automatically going to be decreased, and then when they become 0 you'll do another random number for the X position of the car, and then it will start from the top back down the bottom again. Now there is a slight problem because I can't actually hide that bit there unless I did this as reverse characters, and then you'd have to do the thing where the sprites go underneath the thing, and then it'll look weird because they'll be under the grass. So there's no win situation. The sprite is just gonna go through the score panel. There's nothing I can do about that, but that's it really.